So it's been a bit since I've actually recorded a video here on the channel because the video that I released yesterday was recorded ahead of time. Of course, that was the Steelheads team history video. I'm going to probably do that a few more times during the summer where I'm going to record a bunch of videos and then have them post daily on a schedule, unless something comes up like a news item such as today's. But I was on holidays doing some camping up in the North Bay area over the Canada Day long weekend, so I wasn't able to follow along too closely with the NHL draft, but still able to follow at a distance. And it was great to see Beckett Seneca of the Ottawa Generals selected first from the Ontario Hockey League, going third overall to the Anaheim Ducks. And I did that interview with Sam Cosentino looking forward to the draft, and he kind of expected Seneca to maybe go fifth, but going third overall, a huge surprise. And it was even great to see Seneca and his family's reaction as they were surprised themselves hearing his name at number 3. And what was also pretty cool is seeing the new Mighty Ducks jerseys that are back with the Anaheim Ducks. If you haven't seen those jerseys yet and you grew up in the 90s, they're pretty special. Mind you, the orange different. I was kind of hoping they go back to the teal and eggplant colors, but still, the Mighty Ducks logo is back. I might have to get that jersey when it becomes available in the coming months. But still, congratulations, Beckett Seneca, the first player chosen from the Ontario Hockey League at the draft in Vegas. And also a big congratulations to both Cole Baudouin and Riley Patterson, who were selected by the Utah Hockey Club and the Vancouver Canucks from the Barrie Colts. And if you're new to the channel, I do cover the Barrie Colts as the play-by-play voice on Rogers TV. So I do have some interviews with Cole Baudouin and Riley Patterson on the channel. So if you want to go back and see those interviews and maybe get to know the players a little bit more, you can find that here on the channel. Now, the focus of today's video is on the CHL Import Draft, which took place this morning, and a couple other news items that have happened over the last 24, 48 hours. And we're going to start off with those news items because what was the worst kept secret in the Ontario Hockey League, the Spitfires. They have announced that Greg Walters will be their next head coach going into next season. The news actually came a day after that Walters was reinstated by the league. You'll remember that he was suspended by the Ontario Hockey League after he was fired by the Owen Sound Attack back in the fall. Walters was suspended after it was found there was a situation that happened between him and a staff member during a game up in Sault Ste. Marie. That was just 10 games into the regular season for Owen Sound. And the details about what happened between Walters and the employee have not officially been released, but according to some reports and speculation, it was over a player injury is what it sounds like. But I'm not going to dive into that because that was news that happened back in the fall. The focus today is on the fact that Walters is back as a head coach. During his press conference, he did speak about what he learned from the suspension. He did take some time to reflect. He even served 30 hours of sports psychology, and he says that he feels like a better person. Obviously, there's still some healing that has to be there, and he's going to have, I'm sure for the Windsor Spitfires, keeping a close watch on him over these next few months, just to make sure that things stay status quo when it comes to Greg Walters, because this is a Windsor Spitfires team. They had a lot of disappointment last year, finishing at the bottom of the Ontario Hockey League standings, but there's a lot of potential. It is a young team, and of course, they drafted Ethan Belchetz first overall at the OHL priority selection, and then you also have Liam Greentree, who was just drafted by the Los Angeles Kings, and AJ Spalacy, who went to the Chicago Blackhawks. So there's a lot of good pieces on this Windsor team going forward. They should be competitive, and when you have a coach like Walters who brings the experience, he's spent 14 seasons coaching in the Ontario Hockey League. Started off as an assistant coach with the Sarnia Sting before becoming a head coach with the Ottawa Generals and the Owen Sound Attack. And now he'll bring his experience to the Windsor Spitfires. But he also has GM and head coaching experience in the OJHL with the Georgetown Raiders. He actually spent 8 seasons with the Raiders. So he brings a lot of experience to this Windsor Spitfires hockey club, which was just trying to find a new direction. And as soon as the season ended, Casey Torres, he was the interim head coach. It sounded like at that time that he would not be taking over the head coaching duties, and they just waited it out. They waited for Walters to get the all clear from the Ontario Hockey League, which happened on July 1st, so on Monday. and the team deciding to go through with giving Walters another chance at the OHL level. So and it is some good news, though, for Torres. He's still with the Windsor Spitfires organization. He's going to go back as an assistant coach and will be joined on the bench by Chris Newbury. So that's going to be the men behind the bench down in Windsor. It's going to be fascinating to see how the Spitfire team does, because last year the problem was keeping pucks out of the net, but they do have the offensive capabilities. Belchet's a big forward that was drafted first overall. So I think this is a team that's got the foundation. It's going to take a season probably to figure things out. And then in 2 years from now, watch the Windsor Spitfires be a team that should challenge for top spot in the West Division and eventually challenge for the Western Conference in a couple of seasons' time. So ahead of today's CHL Import Draft, there was a trade between the Kingston Frontenacs and the Ottawa 67. So how it works is we had the June trade window, but with the import draft today, teams were allowed to make moves involving import players. And that's what we saw yesterday as the Frontenacs picked up Tuomas Uranen from Ottawa for Niagara's 4th round pick and a conditional 7th round pick in 2027. Now, Uranen, he appeared in 11 games last season, registering 2 goals, 4 assists, 6 points, but he suffered an injury that kept him out for the rest of the regular season. So Uranen, he's got the talent. We got to wait and see if how his health is going to be. How is he able to step up this season if he does play with the Kingston Frontenacs? The Frontenacs, they did pass on both of their picks today. So the question mark is if Uranen is in the lineup, who's the other import player going to be? It looks like it'll be Jakub Kromiak will be the second import. Remember, he was picked up by the Kingston Frontenacs from Sudbury last season. Hemstrom, Linus Hemstrom's in an interesting spot because if he does come back to the Kingston Frontenacs, he'll also take an overage spot. So you're allowed 2 import players on your roster and 3 overagers per game. So that's going to be an interesting situation for the Kingston Frontenacs. I think they lean towards Kromiak. I haven't heard anything to confirm that at this time, but the import position seems to be set for the Kingston Frontenacs. Well, for Ottawa, trading Uranen allows them to bring in another import player who they did select at the import draft today. So I'll get to that in just a few minutes, but still, it's an interesting situation here for Kingston. I think Uranen is a player that you give him a full season, and I think he will produce at the OHL level. He just needs the ice time, and I think he'll be able to get that with the Kingston Frontenacs. Now, shifting focus to the CHL draft, which took place this morning, the Val d'Or of the Quebec Maritime Junior Hockey League, they held the first overall pick because how it works is the 3 leagues draft from the import eligible players, and it rotates. So Val d'Or had the first pick, and then it was Kamloops from the Western Hockey League, and then the Windsor Spitfires from the OHL, and they continue that cycle. So everybody gets 2 picks, but you can pass on your import selections. Like I said, you're only allowed 2 import players on your team. So the first overall pick, Matvei Grindin, he was actually the first round pick of the Calgary Flames. So he goes to Val d'Or. And then for the Windsor Spitfires, the first team to pick for the OHL, they went with Ilya Protas of Belarus. He was actually drafted by the Washington Capitals. So a Washington draft pick who will now be a member of the Windsor Spitfires if Washington decides to send him down. That's the whole next step now, is to get the commitments from the import players, and the players that were drafted by NHL clubs typically send the imports to the Canadian Hockey League, or you wouldn't be drafting them this high in the CHL Import Draft. So expect Protas to join the Windsor Spitfires. He's a dynamic forward, and will just add to that threat that the Windsor Spitfires will have up front. So other import picks in the first round, I'm not going to go over everybody's picks because I don't want this video to end up being a half an hour. But the Sarnia Sting, they were the second team to pick from the OHL. They went with Ruslan Karamov. He's from Russia. Also to note, this was the first year they allowed Russian and Belarusian athletes back into the CHL Import Draft after the events that took place in Ukraine 2 years ago, with the CHL announcing that they were lifting that ban a couple months ago. So that's why we're getting Russians and Belarusians back into the Ontario Hockey League. So that's where Sarnia went. The Peterborough Petes, they went with Adam Novotny. He's from Czechia. And the Niagara Ice Dogs, they picked up Gabriel Eliasson. He's from Sweden and was selected by the Ottawa Senators. So a good pickup there. The Barrie Colts, with their first round import pick, went with Emil Hemming. He's from Finland and was also selected in the first round by the Dallas Stars, 29th overall. So Hemming, a lot of promise there for him, and it'll be interesting to see how that situation plays out if he ends up coming to the Barrie Colts. I would suspect he does, being he was selected so early in the CHL Import Draft. But again, that doesn't confirm these players are coming, as they still need the player to commit. Like, for example, the Sudbury Wolves didn't find out about Dalibor Dvorsky until the regular season had already started. He was, of course, drafted by the St. Louis Blues 10th overall in the draft in 2023, and then took some time for him to join Sudbury. So we'll wait and see how this works for the OHL teams this year. And for Ottawa, I just wanted to note them because remember, they did that Ronan trade to Kingston. They ended up picking up Philip Ekberg, who's from Sweden. So those are the draft picks early on in the CHL Import Draft. They do have all the picks posted on the Canadian Hockey League's website, so you can find that there to find the players your team may have selected today. But it's just another step towards the OHL regular season, and we're also now entering the quieter months for junior hockey as players take the breaks. They also go off to NHL development camps, which are now underway. So it's still a busy time of year for the hockey players, but for the OHL, it does get pretty quiet on the news front. So we'll keep an eye on things that are going on. I will continue the team history videos tomorrow, and I do have a playlist, if you haven't seen the playlist yet, listing all the team history videos I've done up until this point. So you can check that out if I've already done your team video. If not, stay tuned. I'll be posting a few more as we go through the rest of this week. So that's how I see it from the booth. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and put your comments down below on your thoughts on the hiring of Greg Walters and your team's selection of the import draft. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll talk to you again soon.